Start recording. All right, we are now recording. Okay, welcome everybody. Good morning. Welcome to COVID Cleaning for Municipalities. Today we have Eric Anderson. Eric is the president of EnviroClean Restore, and he is going to be going through proper cleaning methods and talking about PPE, talking about chemicals, talking about how you go about systematically cleaning the areas that you are responsible for. Since this is a municipal meeting, you know, we're going to be talking about town halls, public areas. We're also going to be talking about parks and rec areas, you know, where your residents are going, touching surfaces and getting involved with your equipment and property. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric now. If you have any questions, please go to the chat, type those in. And we're going to give a significant time at the end of the training to answer any questions you may have, and I might throw out a couple questions myself to spur a little conversation and interaction between the group. So, without further ado, I will turn it over to Eric, who will take over the meeting. Thanks, Eric.
All right. Hey guys. Welcome. Happy Tuesday to everybody. The chat box is open on my computer as well. So if we're going and you have questions, feel free to type them in. And then as I see them, I'll either address them during or after, but I'll make sure I get to all the questions that you guys right there. And certainly, like Brian said, we can turn on the microphones and you can ask as well over that. I'd like to give you a quick background.
I'm not getting the voice done.
Oh, somebody, hi there. I'd like to give you a quick background on my experience, who I am, just so you guys can trust the source and understand where I'm coming from.
Mute, press it, alternate A.
So first thing, so background real quick. I started, our business has been EnviroClean. We've been in the disaster restoration industry since 1983. So going on 40 years pretty soon. I'm the second generation. I bought the company about 4 years ago from my father. I've been in the business for now 20 years. We started doing fire and water damage restoration back in the 80s and 90s. In 2001, we launched EnviroClean.
I think he mutes everybody.
Yeah, we gotta go with some mute over there. Hey guys.
Hey Felix, I'm gonna mute you, okay? And just don't take it off mute, please. Unless you have a question, you can put it in the chat, all right?
So I started in mold, and the reason that's relevant, it got back in 2001, mold was hitting, and you guys probably know this, in the towns and schools and what have you, was really hitting the world around us and the concerns for that. But that got me interested in microorganisms and understanding air quality, and became a real air quality expert. How building, so we have building expertise, and then take that into the air quality, makes it for some unique insight. We've been doing virus cleanup and outbreak cleanup for about 15 years. Started our first one at a major university here in Rhode Island, and then took it on to several different types of virus outbreaks. Back when COVID hit, there was a lot of, still is, but there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of questions. But what I do know is how to clean it. We know how to properly clean it from structure, and I'm going to go over that with you guys today. And so we've been doing, I've done COVID projects now, we call them COVID, but we've done the COVID-19 and disinfections for a variety of schools. We've done some in towns, maybe some of the towns that are on this right now, some city halls and town halls. We're working in universities as we speak with move-in weekend, and following behind students, and helped several schools actually develop their protocol for moving back in, and what they do to if somebody tests positive. So I'd like to talk to you guys about that, and all the different types of places. Now, I would like to, someone says they can't hear me. Can you guys hear me? Brian, am I good?
You're good on our end.
You're good, man.
He might have to join audio.
That's probably
Felix, it would be recommended if you could click to join with the audio from your computer.
Either that or they don't have a speaker.
So, all right, so the first thing I want to talk about, now that I give you guys a background, is PPE, personal protective equipment, and the importance of knowing and how these work. If you look up, we're going to talk about masks for a minute too, but everything on Google, everything online, there are so many different opinions out there, and we know that. And I can guarantee you, with 30, 40 people, 30 people right now that are on this Zoom call, we're going to have 30 different opinions out there. So I'm going to speak based on my experience, based on my opinions, but mostly based on the information that I've been taught by the CDC and EPA. I'm following the guidelines that are recommended by the professionals in this, so that not only are we the most effective way, not only are we cleaning the most effective way, but we are protecting our liability as well, right? So we don't want to go against the grain with methodologies here. We want to follow the CDC methodologies. So the first thing we're going to talk about is masks, and the importance of a mask. Now, before I get into how they work, let's talk about the science behind the size of the virus right now. So N95s. Let me start back up. So the virus, the coronavirus, is approximately 0.125 to 0.15 microns in size. A mold spore is 1 to 2 microns. Now, the filters that we're talking about, HEPA filters, N95s, and P100s, can trap 99.97% of particulate down to 0.1 microns. So what we're saying is that the filter can trap smaller particles than the virus. So that's where they're important. So air filtration and the masks themselves. Now, there are two types of N95s. An N95 mask, they're saying is 95% effective. A P100 would be 99.99% effective. So here we have something that would be a P100. You can see on the cartridge here, it says P100, but this is a mask that is fit tested. Okay, so when I put this on, if I wear this on my face, if I have a beard, I'm not going to get a perfect seal. That's number one. So I'd have to shave down or get super close to a super close shave. But this is going to be designed to protect me, not other people. So this is protecting me in any given area that's contaminated from whatever airborne particulate there is. These filters will trap that. And that's the purpose of a P100 or an N95. An N95 mask like this one, okay, again, this will help protect other people, but this is to protect the person wearing the mask. And you see this one, it has a little flap here for breathing. So if I put this on my face, this is going to help me breathe out. And then the flap closes when I breathe in, so everything is filtered through the mask. Again, this is for design. The P100s and the N95s are designed for the person wearing the mask. Your other masks, the surgical masks, this is actually a P100 that you could wear for both, that don't have the flaps. The ones that don't have the flaps, the gaiters, the neck gaiters. So we wear these in our company for day-to-day type work, and these are great. You can pull them up. There's information coming out about the gaiters that maybe not as effective as a surgical mask or a one of the handmade double cloth masks, and that's understood. And again, more data will come out, and we'll anticipate that. But the masks themselves that we're asking staff to wear and everybody to wear in the population, the masks themselves are designed for other people, right? So if I have a mask on, it's not for me. This is going to do nothing to protect me against any kind of airborne virus, okay? What this does is it stops me from sneezing or pushing or projecting my droplets. You hear me talk about droplets of virus potentially if I'm infected. It prevents me from passing that as far airborne, that 6-foot thing. And that's the whole purpose of the mask. So just want to remind everybody that the masks are for other people that you're wearing that in case you're infected. Okay. The other type of PPE would be to consider is our gloves, right? The nitrile gloves. And you want to make sure that you have these available as well. So when you put on a glove, it's a glove. It's no big deal. You put them both on. Again, you don't want to be reusing them. You're using them in a certain area. And when you take them off, you want to make sure that you're not handling the glove, the contaminated side. So if I have 2 gloves on, I can pull that off. But now I'm down to 1 glove. How do I get this glove off? Really simple. Stick your finger underneath here, inside the glove, and you pull it inside and out from there. So I've never touched the outside of the glove. And that's a simple trick to use those. But these are going to be really important depending on the chemicals that you're using to clean and how you're cleaning. You want to make sure that you wear and protect yourself, because there are a lot of dangerous chemicals out there. There are those that are dangerous to touch. Okay, so at the end of the day, we're looking for, what are your goals when it comes to COVID? You want to protect its safety, right? You want to protect your staff. You want to protect the people that are maybe coming in and out of your buildings, and make sure the environment is as safe as possible. And doing that, how do we make the building as safe as possible? So the steps that we know that are out there: social distancing, wearing masks, but then the one that I'm an expert in would be clean building. How do you provide a clean building, the cleanest possible building and environment for people coming? And in this case too, maybe there's playscapes, maybe there's outdoor parks, and Parks and Rec. I don't know if people are from Parks and Rec on here, and what have you. And I'd be curious what towns or what areas are opening up outside stuff where kids are playing on, or people are playing and using those types of facilities where people can be making physical contact. Okay, jumping forward. I want to talk for a few minutes on chemicals. The differences between, all different types. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to share my screen for a minute, and we're going to talk about cleaning versus disinfecting for a minute. All right, let's see if I can get this right. Oh, actually, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to give you guys this link in the chat, and I'm going to copy this into the chat box. This is a list of EPA approved chemicals. There's been a lot of talk. How do I get out of this? Unshare. One second, stop share. Sorry, guys. I'm going to put this link in the text chat box. So if you guys want to look up the EPA list of approved chemicals, it's now in the chat box, and I'm happy to send that link out again later on. I was going to put that all together, but it's a very, very large list, and there's a lot of chemicals out there. And what I'm offering too is I'm going to share with you the chemicals that I like and I know that work really well, and as to why. As we're talking about them, I'm sure you all have different suppliers and different people reaching out to you selling particular products. I'm happy to give you my, if I know about it, I'll give you my 2 cents on it. If I don't, I'm happy to do some research for you and tell you if I believe it's effective or not. All right, back to the screen share here. All right, so. All right, so what's the difference between cleaning and disinfecting? This is really important, especially in areas that have traffic and touching. Disinfecting is essentially, it's killing and inactivating germs, viruses, bacteria on surfaces. That's all disinfecting is, okay? It's no cleaning involved. It's killing whatever's on that surface. The cleaning is wiping or washing or getting rid of, it's removing dirt and germs from a particular surface or an object. So for example, if I've been gardening all day and I want to wash, and I have dirt on my hands, I'm not going to use a disinfectant to wash my hands. I'm going to use soap and water and running water, and I'm going to wash my hands. And I'm going to pull that dirt off that. It's like the idea with bleach. Bleach is not an effective agent for mold remediation. If you have mold, bleach is one of the worst things that you can just spray on it. It's not an effective agent for mold. It's not an effective agent to wash your hands either, right? We want to, with mold remediation, it's the same thing. You need to remove the spores. So the most effective way to remove a COVID to a surface, to clean a surface, is to clean first and then disinfect. Now, there are some products that both clean and disinfect in one wipe, and that's fantastic. But I want to make sure you guys understand that just spraying a disinfectant is not necessarily sufficient. You want to have both available. All right, so things that you want to look to clean and disinfect would be in any building. It's not, I know this says schools, this was one that we developed for schools, but it's for any kind of building where there's more than one person coming in. Would be door handles and doorknobs, desks and chairs, cabinets, lockers, bookshelves, computers, keyboards, mice, light switches, pencil sharpeners, sinks, bathrooms, countertops, you name it. All this stuff, electronics, your printers, things that we call them community touch points, right? Those areas where more than one person may have touched absolutely should be cleaned on a very regular basis. And my recommendation would be daily. Things should be cleaned daily with respect to if the office is being used daily. So that's important to know, the difference between cleaning and disinfecting. Now I'd like to talk for a few minutes about the types of chemicals. Like I said, I posted that link to a bunch on the EPA list. We are big proponents and big fans of plant-based chemicals. And I have several reasons for this. Plant-based chemicals are just far less dangerous. There's no toxicity levels to them. They're not harmful for people. And I'm going to show you in a few minutes. I'm going to actually spray some in my office. I'm going to show you this. So I'm a fan of, on the screen, it's BioEsk and Decon 30. So here's well, you guys can't see me. You got the screen up. So the Decon 30 and the BioEsk solutions are based on thyme oil, white vinegar type solutions. So you can consume them, you could drink them, and they're 100% effective to destroy the coronavirus, COVID, any types of viruses for that matter. And the reason I like these, and we use these in all of our jobs now, we didn't start out when we first started in COVID and the virus cleanup, we were using some of our more traditional chemicals that are actually a little bit less expensive. But I found that staff is returning to work, and with people returning to work, we wanted to find something that would be safe for people. If they were to touch it, we know it's not gonna, there's no risk to touching it. There's no risk to even consuming it or ingesting it or inhaling fumes. If that were to happen, there is a concern of so many chemicals out there and the ability to create some dermatitis, to cause rashes or skin inflammation. And we want to avoid that because there are chemicals that can be really, really dangerous to the touch. And there are chemicals that are being promoted right now for COVID disinfections that are very, very dangerous to touch. And they're recommending the applicators are wearing full biohazard suits, which are the really thick suits with the full face mask as they're applying this stuff, and it's extremely dangerous. And so my concern is, well, if it's that dangerous to apply, why do we want this in our building with other staff or the public or what have you? So again, I want to recommend that you investigate plant-based solutions. I do recommend that we actually keep bottles, not bottles, we keep barrels in our shop here. We buy them in 50-gallon drums, and it's fantastic to have. And I mean, we're using them every day, but as many of you will be as well, you might want to consider the same thing. If you're interested in contact or something, let me know. You can feel free to reach out to me and I can introduce you to our supplier for those. The other chemical I want to caution about, so we've been using other stuff that's good. Shockwave is a very good cleaner, Fiberlock products. There's a lot out there. Feel free, again, whatever you guys are using, I may or may not know about it, but I'm happy to read the SDS sheet and do some investigation for you to check out its efficacy. I do want to caution everybody right now on snake oil. And what I mean by snake oil, not in the literal sense, but there's a lot of pop-up companies and a lot of pop-up product that has come out with COVID that the fly-by-night companies are suggesting that their product is superior for X, Y, and Z. So you just want to be cautious. You want to make sure that it has the proper, it's on the list, number one, the EPA list, but you also want to make sure that it has the proper, it's been through the proper testing for its efficacy. There are products out there now. We were talking about one earlier that has a 30-day kill time. And there was another one that my school with my students, my children attend. The superintendent called me to ask me about this European product that they're having real success with. They say it has it bonds to the surface and it can last up to a year. So my concern with those, I'm not denying that they can't work, but a laboratory setting is very different than a field setting, where a laboratory setting where they're tested, sure, if I apply a coating on something and then a virus lands on that or is on that, it can't survive for a period of time. That's possible, but they haven't been field tested. And field tests, the variables that come with working in the field would be additional cleaning. Every time you wipe down that surface, are you removing that bonding agent? Just touching, right? If I touch something here, I touch this glass here, take a sip. I left behind a biofilm. I left fingerprints behind, right? So every time I touch a surface, there are biofilms left behind. On that biofilm, now that biofilm is on top of that coating. Can the virus survive on the biofilm? Yes, 100% yes. And that's where, when I say snake oil, the idea that the product may work, but is it going to work over that period of time with other people touching that, with other people affecting that actual surface? So just caution to that. If it sounds too good to be true, it just may be. Okay, so the next most important thing to do is when you have these products, So here's my Benefect bottle. Is all the fine print. You got to read all the fine print on these. Understand how it's applied, what they recommend. How do you apply this chemical? Okay, is it better off to be wiped? Are you better off to spray it with an airless spray or a fogger, a mister, what have you, or just soak the rag? I'm a big fan of taking a bucket, a 5-gallon pail, fill that with your chemical, wear your gloves, and rinse out the rags and clean that way. It's a fantastic way to clean and disinfect all the surfaces. Nothing is going to beat the wiping. So make sure you've read the SDS sheets and understand that, and keep the SDS sheets on hand. Make sure you read the labels. Make sure you understand the dwell time, okay? Many products have different dwell times, and in my research over the last few months, they go anywhere from 30 seconds. There was not a single company that said their dwell time was instant. It's 30 seconds to 3 minutes are the vast majority of them, meaning that needs to sit on that surface for 3 minutes to be fully effective. So pay attention to that, to whatever the manufacturer says for that dwell time, and on what surface. And then storage. Make sure your storage is, I'm going to go to one more share screen again. Make sure your storage is the right temperature. Make sure your storage is locked up for other people that can't access this thing. So again, protecting against COVID-19, we recommend cleaning using an EPA disinfectant. I will make sure Brian and Colleen can email these out to you guys if you want any of this stuff. Follow directions on the label, clean surfaces to determine how they'll be disinfected. Sometimes it's both in the same step. Follow the right specified contact time, wear gloves, wash your hands, store chemicals in a secure location, and make sure that that secure location is climate controlled. A lot of times too cold or too hot will render the chemical ineffective eventually over a period of time. Make sure it's not expired too, although I can't imagine anybody has expired chemicals at this time. And wear gloves. Lastly on the chemicals, well, not lastly, but next thing on the chemicals, don't mix them. Don't mix chemicals. If you have a container, if you have an applicator, any type of spray bottle, whatever, that has got bleach in it, that can only be used for bleach. Do not mix anything else in that ever. Whatever you're using, it's a one-time use for that particular chemical. Certainly do not mix bleach with any ammonia-based or what have you. You start mixing too, the off-gassing can be very, very dangerous. The fumes that you breathe in is super dangerous to anybody applying that or whoever's in that space. After you clean an area, well, I'll get back to that one. We're gonna wait 24. Okay, so I'm gonna flip the camera around for a minute. I'm gonna get off the screen. I think right here. Is this the last one I wanted to show you guys? Yep. So we're gonna talk about fogging and misting right now. Actually, let me just take. I'll do this real quick while I have this up, and then I'm going to show you guys an actual fogging machine and the electrostatic sprayers as well. And I would put those in line with foggers. Very, very effective. So the fogging machines, the electrostatic sprayers, I'm a big fan of. Basically, how the difference is, and if you look at the diagram here, you'll see some corona, some viruses, and then you see the droplet sizes of the fogging, and then the spray or mister. The fogging and electrostatic sprayer uniformly breaks down that chemical into evenly distributed weighted droplets, usually 5 to 5 microns in size, and they're going to be just like in the diagram there. They will be sprayed evenly. I'm going to show you exactly how that does. The nice thing about that too is it can stay airborne for a much longer period of time and work itself into the nooks and crannies to get a much more evenly distributed disinfection. In addition to that, in addition to the even distribution with the fogging, is I just lost my train of thought on that one. This is the hardest part about on Zoom calls. I can't see you guys, and I like to get the feedback that way. But the misting, what happens with that, the misting and the spraying is the droplets are so large they fall down. They don't stay airborne long enough. They go right down the surface, and there's no even distribution with that. So the fogging and the electrostatic sprayers do a much better job of engulfing and encasing the surfaces to which they're applied. And I'm going to recommend that you guys consider either purchasing if you don't have one, or looking to use one of those if you're going to be doing cleaning in-house. Beyond that, however, if you don't need it, the key the key, I want to just remind you of this. So the key part to, let me get off this screen share. The key to cleaning, right, is frequency and thoroughness. Hitting up all the surfaces on a very regular basis. Different towns, the state is recommending different things, but different towns have their own policies. Whether you're going to be cleaning twice a day, daily, every other day, that's going to be up to you. You're not going to be able to clean too much. My recommendation is any given building, people can be responsible for their own work areas potentially, but have somebody kind of your COVID officer, if you will. Consider assigning somebody the responsibility to make sure things are being done properly and adhered to. I'm going to switch my computer around. I'm going to show you guys something. Let's see if this works. Okay. Do this. A light. There. So here's a traditional spray bottle. So we have here, a lot of you guys are probably cleaning with these types of bottles or any variation of these backpack ones. Is bigger. There's the garden sprays, the pump spray ones here. And what happens is, when you spray this, watch how quickly that falls down. And it's gone, right? Or if I spray on the rag, if you look closely, and it's hard to see, you can see all different weights. You got heavy here, this thing, and it's soaked. This is already soaked all the way through. You can see how much that's soaked through. So I've used a lot of the chemical up on just those two squirts. And the difference with the fogger, so this is our oldest fogger in our system. All the new ones that the guys have out on job sites right now. So this system, I'm going to show you how this works. So I turn this on. And I don't know if you can see the spray. When it's going far, it's still going up. And so if I hold the rag in front, okay. So this, you saw, again, it's hard to see in the video, but I can see here, this whole thing is absolutely covered, even though it's flapping, and it's very uniform around. And so not only are you getting a uniform application, you're getting more thorough, and you're using less chemicals. So if I'm buying, this stuff adds up over a period of time, it gets pretty darn expensive. Still here. If you're all spending lots of money on chemicals, we want to make sure we can be more efficient with our usage. And especially if you're disinfecting outdoor spaces, if you're disinfecting playgrounds or playscapes or parks and things like that, that fogger would be a much more effective way to reach those spaces. Another cleaning tip I'm just going to show you. So here's a paper towel, any cleaning rags that you have, but you want to get, and this is for cleaning, you want to get the most efficient use out of this and surface area. So you get eight sides out of this. So we fold it in half, fold it in half again. So now so when I clean, I got a nice big flat surface area here. I'm going to be cleaning this side. I flip it, I have another side. Turn it inside, flip it this way, 3, 4. And then I turn it back and I go the other way around, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I've got 8 sides that I'm cleaning with this rag. Again, more efficient use, you get better wiping coverage rather than just crumbling up and wiping, which we see a lot of people doing. So the best method to do is to get a nice flat surface with the palm of your hand here, and you got 8 sides out of that. And that's the best way to clean nice and uniformly to make sure everything is done most effectively. Okay. All right. So where are we now? We have to talk about what happens if a person tests positive. Staff, employee, student, a child, somewhere in one of your facilities or one of your spaces. What do you do if somebody tests positive? Now, I would think that everybody's got their protocol set up in case, in the event that happens. But how do we clean the structure? So we developed a few plans with a few universities for them as students are moving back. And we actually got to put one into practice over the weekend. 2 students test positive at a school. It was interesting to see how the contact tracing went, where they went, and before it hit the media, we had the rooms cleaned up. and the area is cleaned up and disinfected. Now, our recommendation is, let's say that a staff member is in a building, they test positive. They obviously need to leave and go quarantine themselves for the period of time that you deem acceptable, and the standard seems to be 14 days. We recommend that area, so we do a physical, not just a contact tracing for the people, but we do a physical plant contact tracing, where did that person go? What areas did they go into? Some of the buildings that we've done, we've had to do entire floors of high rises or entire facilities, and sometimes just an office. And a part of that is also to your own comfort level. So we recommend, let's just say a staff member tests positive, wherever they were or wherever the building was, we shut that section of the building down. We contain it off, and I don't want anybody in there. Even if you're the guy who's going to be, you're in facilities and you're going to be the one doing the cleanup yourself, wait 24 hours. We want that area shut down for 24 hours, no access. And so that where there's just the door, you don't have to be contained fully, but shut the doors, lock it up. And windows are good too. If you can open windows, or even better, if you can set up negative air, it's fantastic. And the reason we say that is, I talked early that the virus particulate is 1/10 of a micron in size. That can stay airborne for a long time. And we want to give that virus time to settle. So if that virus is airborne, if that person who has tested positive had coughed or been talking, there's potential for that. Now, that's where the fogging machine comes in really well, because that stays airborne for up to 30 minutes. And that's going to help capture and disinfect stuff much more quickly. But if you're going to be cleaning up yourself, you certainly want to let that room sit, let everything settle down on the surfaces, then you can go in and clean. So we say wait 24 hours, let the airborne droplets and the virus droplets settle, then you can go in and clean. And you have to decide if you're going to in-house, do that in-house, or if you're going to outsource that cleaning and disinfection. There are workplaces where people are coming in and out. There's the peace of mind that needs to be about to. One, that's why I stress the type of chemical that you're using, that there are people with chemical sensitivities or concerns with toxicity levels and all that. But then there's also the level of cleanliness. How comfortable is somebody going into that place of work, or that building after somebody's tested positive? And so we've developed a couple of processes and steps to help with that. And I'm happy to talk with any of you about that any given time, to make sure that you can have your comfort level if somebody does test positive going back to work or back into the building. Another really important step I wanted to add is signage. The best way to prevent outside, so we're cleaning the structure, but then we can also prevent by reinforcing washing your hands. Those should be all over the buildings. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, to whatever extent that you want to. I'd recommend that you make that accessible to anybody coming in. And then the addition of hand sanitizers. Make sure that, we have the pump stations around our office, and constantly everybody's disinfecting their hands constantly, because we touch things. So if your hands are disinfected on a regular basis or washed, you're going to do a better job of preventing that. And then obviously social distancing, wearing the masks, and having backup masks too. So I don't know if everybody carries several of them, but when you start sneezing into a mask or something like that, you may want to switch it out by the afternoon. We certainly tell I'm not sure what the schools are doing with their kids, but that's something we want to consider as well. And then the last thing to consider that you're going to have to clean would be what vehicles. We've been talking about buses, cruisers we've been doing on a regular basis to some extent, or playgrounds, playscapes, things where are going to have continual contact point, where kids are going to touch things or people. How often you need to clean that. Indoor, outdoor, there's still discrepancies about that. Like, how long can the virus survive in the sun with UV light? I don't know. I can't, I'm not a scientist with that. I'm going by what I read, and I've heard everything from 3 seconds to a day. So you really got to trust, see what's out there. That's outside in the sunlight, but those surfaces should be cleaned as well. If they're being touched by the public, you want to have them cleaned on a regular basis. And I'll leave it at that. I think that's everything I need to cover. Is that right, Brian? Am I forgetting something? I'll go to the questions. Okay.
We're gonna ask everybody to put a question in chat if you have one, and we'll answer this first one, and then, you know, myself and maybe Colleen, we're gonna try and just bring up some topics here to have everyone that wants to weigh in about what they're dealing with. So we do have a question from Dino. When closing off an area, do you have to take into consideration HVAC systems?
Yeah, I would. Although the EPA said it's unlikely that the virus will, if the returns are on the ground, on the floor, or the lower parts of the walls, definitely. The return that's going to be pulling the air in. So if the returns are in the ceiling tiles, I wouldn't worry about it as much, because the spores, I mean, the virus isn't elevating, it is dropping down. They have not commented. We're not seeing stuff that on buildings we have to clean the HVAC system. They're accepting that. But I would certainly plastic them off. Yeah. Yes. Because you're going to be running the system. So put some poly up on that and be done. I think that could work, if that's clear.
Okay. So you talked briefly about playgrounds and fogging them and making sure that, is there any other things specific to playgrounds that you need to be, besides being in a building versus being outside, that we should take into consideration?
I think more important than fogging would be wiping them down. All the rails, the touch points that the kids are going to be using on that. So I think that's going to be much more effective. I'd soak a rag and I'd go through and wipe all the railings down. That's going to be more thorough and more effective than trying to fog it.
Okay.
Is that recommended on a daily basis that happen, Eric? Because obviously there's playgrounds located throughout municipalities. Some municipalities have more than others, and I'm wondering if what's your recommended?
So
because some may have more.
I'll say yes. Is it realistic? Probably not. Right.
Right.
So I guess on the record, yes, I would say I would recommend you clean it, daily, or at least. But I would say just as long as if you have a frequency, I would put it in writing, your protocol as a town or city saying, hey, we have a protocol set in place based on these recommendations from these professionals or these agencies that our playgrounds are going to be cleaned 3 times a week, right? And then if that's even made public or something, and then I'm not sure. But I think more frequency is always better. More and more is always better.
Okay, should you open windows in an area that you're closing off due to COVID case? Since the virus is airborne, could it exit via windows to people walking outside?
That's a fair question. With mold remediation, we set up HEPA filter negative air before we open the windows. I would still say yes. I mean, I don't think, that whole 6-foot rule and stuff, you're bringing in fresh air. And I like that idea. I think fresh air always helps, clean out and flush things out more quickly. It's like watering down something as well. So I would say yes. I don't envision, maybe I'm wrong, somebody going up to the window, sticking their face at an open window, breathing in but that's a fair question. If that's a concern, then leave the window shut and just let everything go down. And I've got no problem either way. I'm basing that based on the CDC's guidelines and then taking kind of what we've done, generally speaking, with indoor air quality.
Okay, good. Thank you. Next question. For those who own fogging machines, what is the recommended brand, average cost, and recommended vendors?
So there's several brands out there. What's the new blue one? We just bought 3. They were about $400 a piece. Online. They're hard to find for the longest period of time, but we just got 3 new ones. I got to find the company that I bought them from. So I will make that note. I'll get that to Brian and Colleen to email out a link to fogging machines. So figure about $400. You might be able to get them for closer to $300, and that's sufficient there.
Okay. How often should bathrooms be cleaned?
As often as you can. I would say. People are going to be, it's just like anything else. I think the schools are saying several times a day, they're going to be cleaning bathrooms. It's the same thing. It's something where, people go up to the mirrors, they're touching a lot of points and stuff too. So I think if you got a routine going twice a day on bathrooms, then you're doing really well. I think if you can't do twice a day, then definitely daily.
This one came in. Can you please review and explain proper cleaning protocols, procedures? What should our custodial staff be doing to properly clean surfaces? It seems to me the same dirty appearing sludge is on door pallets, door handles, bathroom stall doors, etc. That has been there quite possibly for years.
All right, so like I said, so a lot of it depends on, all right, so cleaning, disinfecting, again, it's two different things, right? So the cleaning procedures, sludge, it's hard to gauge that. Like I said, with the paper, how you use the material when you're cleaning, the 8 sides is really important, because what I'm finding is people clean with dirty rags. They clean with dirty. We use the Scotch Brite pads, those green rough pads too. So if you're trying to really get sludge or something off, then you need to get something that's abrasive to pull that off. That's one. But a cleaning agent, a surfactant, is very different than just a disinfectant, right? So they're like this. Clorox is not a cleaning agent. Clorox is just a disinfectant. Okay, this is not going to clean surfaces other than the fact that it's wet. If I put the Clorox on the rag, that'll wipe some things off and leave a disinfectant, but it's not actually cleaning. I need to mix in some kind of detergent of some sort, surfactant, to actually clean that surface. So what I like to do when I'm cleaning, what I prefer, and I think is the most effective, is to, like I said, fill up a bucket with and dip the rag, and that way use the 4 sides, then the other 4 sides, clean that, toss the rag or put it in a bag to be laundered and washed later, and then go start again. And you might have to re-clean that surface. Now, if we're talking just from the bathrooms or these protocols for COVID, it's touch points. It's a wipe. It's a thoroughness. You can fog in and wipe down the surfaces, or you can, again, soak the rag. We like to do it. So when we're doing our protocol, is we're going in, we're fogging everything, we're letting that sit, and then we're using the whole wipe. We're starting fresh. We're not using the fogged air as the wet surface to wipe off. We're washing with the disinfectant after we fog to be more thorough. Does that make sense? Where we're kind of doing both, independent of one another, but back to back. And I hope, Kevin, that answers your question. Otherwise, send me a picture, or you're in Smithfield, you're up the street. I'll come take a look if there's a doorknob that you're not happy with. That's been done. I'll give you my time.
All right. What's the best procedure to disinfect a vehicle that may have multiple users? Is 20 milliliter bleach in a quart of water okay to disinfect?
Yeah, so again, I wouldn't use bleach. At that point in time, I would recommend a plant-based disinfectant. I'm not going to recommend too many other chemicals. I'd have to read the SDS sheets of them. I'm happy to give some Fiberlock. We've used Fiberlock, but again, with multiple users in these vehicles, bleach is not good. You're going to cause other types. You might damage gaskets. You might damage other parts with bleach. It's really corrosive. So you want a non-corrosive thing in vehicles as well. So I like the hydrogen peroxide stuff too, although good for viruses. Again, it's corrosive, so you want to be careful what you're applying and make sure that you're not affecting the mechanics of the car as well. So what we've been doing, and we do a handful of cruisers with police departments, and we've been doing those ongoing for COVID, and we're doing that twice a week for a couple of departments actually, and we go and just do their entire fleet twice a week. And they've been trying their best to keep the same drivers in each of the vehicles, but we go and we give it a blast with the fog, with the disinfectant, and then we wipe everything down, and we know that way it's getting into the nooks and crannies.
And then somebody had suggestions on the electrostatic spray. They said they use a Hurricane ES electrostatic sprayer that works well for them, and a B&G Dynafog.
Nice.
So those are 2 products that somebody suggested, Jim Owens actually. And then Dino, do you have any experience with DZ7?
I don't know DZ7. I can look it up. Is that the Zuno one?
I thought that was the same question we had in the last one, right?
Yeah, I think that might be is that the one? Dino, I don't know if you can give me a yes or no. Is that the one that they're saying get bonds for 30 days?
You know, you can unmute if you want and just talk. Okay. Hopefully
I'm not familiar. I'm happy to look into it. Again, if that's the same as this other one that I think it is, they're using it on buses, and suggesting that it'll adhere to and bond to the surface for up to 30 days. I'm just really leery of that stuff. I'm not saying it can't work, but the second you start wiping or hands touch something, I would not, I wouldn't recommend trusting that something's going to disinfect the surface for 30 days.
He said it's actually from Zepp.
Zep, okay. I'll check that out. I'm not familiar with what Zep's doing on that one right now, but I'll type in my message, my email address and stuff now. So you guys can have my email for any kind of questions too. But if you want to email me specifically with the product that you want my feedback on, I'm happy to give you non-biased. I don't sell any products or anything either. So what I'll do, if I'm going to look at products for you, I'll check out the SDS sheets. I'll look for their rating and the testing, what they've done, and I'll give you my 2 cents on it if I think it's one, is it effective, but I think more importantly, we know all this stuff is effective at direct kill, but what is the lasting implications? Is there risk for the person applying it? Because a lot of the people that are going to be doing cleaning are not professional cleaners. A lot of people are teachers or staff or, receptionist or town manager, maybe doing, like, whoever, right? They're not professional cleaners, and I'm sure many of you can be and are good cleaners, but again, applying this stuff, you don't want to get it on your skin. It can cause burns, it can cause irritations, and it may just be discomfort, but still, let's avoid it when we can. Right, so that's my 2 cents on that. All right.
So just to facilitate some conversation, and you guys can unmute if you'd like, to answer some of the questions that I might just come up with. And first of all, is anybody, let's put this out there. What's the frequency of cleaning for playgrounds right now? Or does anybody have playgrounds that are open that they are attending to? So if anyone wants to unmute and talk about that.
Can I also amplify on your question and just say, the use of public buildings every day, obviously, if you have a town hall, a library where there's different people coming in daily, how are you training your staff to clean? And was this information helpful in providing the information that you need for that?
So I'll ask everyone to unmute. I think they can unmute themselves, but so if anyone wants to speak up, and anybody?
Hey, Kathy, I'm going to comment real quick to Kathy's question on the vehicles again, because I think that's important. And I didn't talk specifics other than just fog and wipe things down. The key is going to be the touch points again. Your seat belt, the seats getting in, the armrests, the dials, the steering wheel, the dashboard, all those touch points, right? That's the area that you want to make sure that you're cleaning, that you're actually physically wiping down. Okay, so just to be clear, you don't have to necessarily go on the side of the seat. Maybe you want to, or the rugs, and you don't have to vacuum it per se. But the fogging is good because that gets the flooring done. But then you want to wipe down all those contact and those touch points. My recommendation would be when somebody leaves the vehicle that they clean it. When they're done, if they know, my staff does that here. We have, a dozen trucks or so that go out on a daily basis. And at the end of the day, the person bringing the truck back is responsible to make sure that vehicle is cleaned and disinfected, so that if emergency call comes in late that night, the person coming in knows it's clean. The next day, if there's a new driver, new people, they know it's been cleaned. And they have permission to take the extra few minutes to clean it themselves if they want before they even go into it. So the protocol is when you exit a vehicle, you're leaving it disinfected and cleaned. And so all of my vehicles, we keep, I keep the spray bottles because you can't take foggers everywhere. Spray bottles and rags are in all of our vehicles so that it's all there. It's accessible at any given time.
Yeah, and I also think CDC came out with something with shared vehicles. That was exactly what they suggested was, when you leave the vehicle, you wipe it down, you wipe all the touch points down, and then pass it off. And the person that comes in should also disinfect when they get in the vehicle. Because why not, right? Because you're trusting the person that just left the vehicle to do that. So if you have both checks there, then you're going to be confirming that vehicle is disinfected for your use, and then making sure it's good for the next person. So, okay, opening it up for any other questions that people may have.
All right, I'm going to email those things over to Brian and Colleen, and they can send them out to you guys. And my email and cell phone's there. Feel free to text me as well. I love texting is easy because I can get to it anytime too. So email, text, any questions you guys have at any given time, in the future, I'll be available.
Colleen, did you want to?
Well, I was just going to say the same thing that Eric has offered his assistance. So if there's questions post, or if anyone wants to stay on after everybody leaves to talk to Eric individually, I think he's available for that and post the seminar, and that his contact information will be in the information that we're dispersing out to our members.
All right. We
Well, I
get
appreciate everybody. Thank you, guys.
thank yous, and thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. And again, reach out with any questions. We are here to assist. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.